Welcome back to the weekly news roundup. This is the business and the SillyVille edition. These are recorded live Fridays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time if you'd like to catch the show live. Well, we're going to dive right on in. First two Linux stories. I am not a fan of HP. I hate HP. I refuse to buy HP products. If HP is the only thing left on the shelf, I will walk out of the store. I will not buy them. Why? Do I think they're bad computers? Maybe, maybe not. But when I was a starving graduate student and writing my dissertation, and I had to buy an updated computer right around the time of Vista, and HP shipped me a computer with without the proper amount of RAM to run Vista. It was running 500 megabytes of RAM when the minimum system requirements were 1 gig, and the computer never started properly, never worked properly out of the box. I sent it back to them. They're like, "This computer looks like it has been dropped." I'm like, it has not been dropped. But they refused to honor a warranty on a brand new computer. So, HP, I tell everybody, do not buy HP. So I will not buy HP. That being said, HP has released a new Linux laptop. This one's actually running PopOS instead of Ubuntu. So I can get behind that, and I can get behind the fact that it's a Linux computer that's close to $1,000 and not excessively expensive. Because yes, when we all think Linux, we think, let's buy thousands of dollars of computers. No, if we need Linux to take off, we need to have somebody who will build a Linux computer that is absolutely good enough to run Linux that doesn't cost over $1,000. I haven't paid more than $400 for a computer in years. And they're all really good computers, too. We don't need all of the absolute latest and greatest to showcase Linux, guys. We should be showcasing Linux on the crappy processors that Windows barely works on to show how good it is. But anyway, hey, at least we got our price point down to just over $1,000. And it is a good computer for what this is. What's that? It's a Ryzen 7, I think. Ryzen 7 Pro 5850U. Like, literally, release a computer with like a Ryzen 3 for a couple $100 and show people how good Linux is. Of course, this is like a lot of the other Linux-based computers. It's designed for developers mostly, things like that. It has 1.9 to 4.4 gig clock speed, integrated Radeon graphics, 2 sticks of 8 gigabyte DDR RAM, so it's 16 gigs of RAM, upgradable to 64. And it has 1 terabyte PCE. Let's see, 1080p monitor. So it's overall, it's a very good computer. And of course, their Meta key just has a Meta key. It doesn't have a Windows key. That's pretty cool. So it's good. I can kind of get behind this, but I won't be buying it because screw you, HP. But if you do, let me know how the computer is. Also, if you have an old iPad laying around, this is, I think, an iPad Air 2. Anything with the Apple A7 and A8 base chips, some people have figured out how to get Linux working on these now. So if you have an old iPad laying around that no longer gets Apple updates, this is Linux booting up on an iPad Air 2. And so if you have one of these laying around, you might be able to get some Linux running on it. He got Linux version 5.18 booting it on the old one. Maybe that's because of all of that DRM stuff that I'm hearing is embedded into there. I don't know. But anyway, if you have one laying around, look into that and see if it's something that's good and viable. Well, next we go over some Google. So Google hits back. It claims Gmail inbox filters are biased. Basically what's going on is some conservative people have looked at this and said, hey, why is it that my people who've signed up for my mailing lists are not getting my emails? And after a research has showed that more than 50% of emails originating from conservative people tend to land in the spam boxes, whereas those of Democratic-leaning people tend to be delivered. Very interesting. And so when questioned about this, Google writes a post that basically gives them information about how you can improve your sending things, like, make sure you're using a validated domain and all these types of things that has nothing to do with anything at all. So this is literally like Google was just caught censoring things based on your political ideology, and their response is, read this blog post that we're not doing this. These guys just don't know how to use email right. Yeah, sure. I completely think about that. So there you have it. Google may indeed be censoring, and this is why I'm not a fan of Gmail. Well, the U.S. is about to get serious about EVs. No, they're not, TechCrunch. Are you smoking something? Did you get one of those free kits down in Atlanta? I don't know. But basically they're saying Americans largely ignored electric cars. So here's what this is based on. In economics, there is a 4-point growth curve to adoption of new tech. And when you're first doing new tech, I'm going to try and do this backwards so it's forward for you guys. So when the first early stage is something, you get what's generally, I believe it's called the pre-knee phase, where it's very, very slow upstream. And then a lot of people start adopting it, and then you get this fast asymptote. It goes right up, and then of course it slows down again as the people reach critical adoption, and basically now we're just getting replacement numbers, not new people getting new things. So the place the companies want to be at as they're analyzing these things is right at that point, right before the pre-knee, because there's little competition, but a lot of demand. And so that's kind of where companies want to be at. So this is research that suggests, and they're talking about the S-curve in here, and they're saying that, hey, the number of people that are buying electric cars is absolutely going up. I got news for you. This is not going to be a viable thing. There's a few reasons. The first reason is people are going to find out very soon that electric cars, we do not have the infrastructure to run them. The second thing is when when 5% of our population is running electric cars, our electric grid is going to crash, and nobody's going to be able to go anywhere except those of us still running gas engines. The third reason is that the cars do not last long. After 10 years, you have to do basically the price of 3 used cars just to replace the batteries on your old 10-year-old car. They're not sustainable. And then fourth, we do not have the natural resources to build all the batteries to put into all these smart cars. Okay, this is a pipe dream of insanity. And by the way, they're still just as polluting as the gas cars. It's just the difference is they're not polluting right when you're driving them down the road. They're polluting them when you're charging them at your house instead. So it just shifts. It shifts all of the carbon footprints just to different places. But the whole world is full of ignorant NIMBYists. And so that's what tends to happen. And so this article's like, oh yeah, everyone's taking off EVs. I'm sorry. I know a few people that are excited about electric cars, but most people I know are like, I'm not buying an EV. Not a chance. We don't have the infrastructure. We can't charge them up. Our electric grid can't take it. Right now, people in Texas are being told to turn up your thermostats because air conditioning is causing pressures on the electrical system. And I think it's somewhere in the Midwest is like Indiana or Illinois or something. They're warning that this summer they are going to have rolling brownouts. Maybe we should all, get off the grid a little bit and learn how to live with a little bit less power. Maybe it wouldn't be an issue. So this article is making the claim that EVs are coming, but I think that this is going to be a growth curve that dies pretty quick because the cars are simply not sustainable enough. Well, is Apple about to launch its very own search engine? Some people are guessing Apple is rumored to be quietly developing its own search engine. Makes sense about people doing, with them trying to insource all their data. If they have their own search engine, they can monopolize it with a lot of different ways. And using the data that they have on people, they can actually do a pretty good job of doing the algorithms. This points to the type of stuff that they've been doing for the last few years. Of course, my concern is it free or is it going to cost you like $100 a month to use? I mean, it is Apple after all. A whole bunch of people are like, it's Apple search. You're going to pay anything to use it. Yeah. So I don't know. But we'll see what happens. It's still in the spinning around the rumor mills. So we'll see what happens. And Cruise can finally charge for driverless robotaxis in San Francisco. So you can now get in the backseat of a car without a driver in it and pay money to do so in San Francisco. Guys, the training videos of these is not looking good. I'm telling you, this is frightening stuff. So just be aware. There's a little bit of map where you can use it. I think they're limited in speed down to like 25 or something. 30 miles an hour. Cruise will be operating passenger services at a maximum speed of 30 miles per hour between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. on selected streets in San Francisco, adding another 1.5 hours to the current service. Company will need additional state regulatory approval to charge members of the public for driverless taxis. So guys, this 2030 dream is moving in. You don't need cars. You just need to pay us everything. And you don't need to own a car. It's so pricey. It's so bad. Let us own all of the cars for you. Then, of course, you'll be limited to going to certain places. So there you have it, guys. It's starting to happen. And on to our final story. We talked last week about Broadcom buying VMware for like $60 billion. Elon Musk should have solved world hunger for the $40 billion for Twitter. I think Broadcom, they should be responsible to solve world hunger and something else. Solve world hunger twice over. Maybe we should solve world hunger and give the rest of it to Ukraine or something. I don't know. But nobody's making that argument because it's not somebody wanting to turn leftist Twitter into something of free speech. But instead, Broadcom basically said, yeah, we're going to acquire VMware. Yeah. And before the ink is even dry, they're like, yeah, we're going to turn this into a SaaS, baby. You think that free personal license is going to go away? Oh, you bet it will, buddies. You guys using VMware for free on your personal stuff? Oh, I wouldn't expect that to stick around any longer. So of course the idea is we can't be selling these forever licenses for a certain amount of money. Oh no, this is going to hurt us. We need to go ahead and do a software as a service and start charging more and more for this. That's kind of the stuff that we're doing now. So there you have it, guys. If you're using VMware, and now there's possibly some longer term implications before we wrap this video up. I think that one of the factors we're going to see is a lot of your big hosting companies will use VMware to power their virtualization systems. This may definitely cause a rise in hosting costs. I know when cPanel, they went from they basically had a license where you could have as many cPanels on it. They got rid of that, started upcharging people. My hosting fees doubled. That's actually why I now actually do my client hosting on Linode, and I'm paying cPanel. I am paying for one of these stupid SaaS services, but it actually ends up being, it's actually a lot cheaper for me to pay cPanel directly for the SaaS license and do the backend infrastructure on Linode. It makes more sense for me to do that than to pay any other hosting company. That's why I still do recommend A2 hosting for people who need a simple hosting account, but I'm not personally using them myself. It's because the price has doubled because cPanel went all sassy. Well, VMware is going sassy, and that might actually cause a radical increase in prices of hosting again. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Well, if you'd like to help support the channel, again, go buy a t-shirt, shop.switchedtolinux.com. We have t-shirts, we have bags, we have hats, we have mouse pads and things like that, like my Linuxy mouse pad that my green screen messes with. But you can find all sorts of, hey, even look at this, baby onesies with the alien in a tinfoil hat on it. That's awesome. But anyway, you can find those over at shop.switchedtolinux.com. Now, guys, let's head to SillyVille. First up in SillyVille, can I talk to a human? Spain prevents a customer service bill that is going to forbid companies from using the labyrinthian auto-robo telemarketing calls. Basically, as you are now calling in to any given company, you have to have an option to get to a human without having to talk to it, push a bunch of buttons, or otherwise get in there. And they're adding extra options to say that they have to pick up the line. I think it's within 3 minutes. You actually have to be on the line with people. Now, of course, this is kind of problematic. There's literally not enough people. You have a heavy call volume. That's one thing, but I think it's still an advantage over all this nonsense. All this nonsense there of waiting around for these stupid machines and then talking to them like, tell us what you, in a few words, what are you doing? They're collecting your voice prints, right? That's why I just sit there and spam numbers. That's kind of what you do. But that's what Spain's up to. Very good. Maybe we need that everywhere else as well. And the rest of these just go weird downhill from here. Ars Technica, which is worse for the soil, combines or dinosaurs? Combines right now, because I see a shocking lack of dinosaurs in the world. Okay? There's a shocking lack of dinosaurs in the world. So, definitely combines. But of course, the idea is, what is worse for the planet? Is dinosaurs worse for the planet, or are combines worse for the planet? Surprisingly, Ars Technica came to the conclusion that dinosaurs were worse for the planet. Why? Well, I mean, they're so much heavier than a combine, and they're all distributing their weight on only 4 legs, and of course they have to pick up one of those to walk. I completely forgot to grab pictures. I wanted to grab pictures of this, but I actually was up at the dinosaur stomping grounds in Utah, where you see like there's like 2,500 something dinosaur prints in this section of rock. So it's kind of cool to go in and see, and some of them very clearly look like dinosaur prints, and other ones are probably not. So you have that going for you. But basically they're looking at what's worse. So of course money went into this study to figure out what's worse, dinosaurs or combines. Waste of government research being is that, we really can only make a guess about the dinosaurs, and T-Rexes are not exactly going to be tromping down our soil anytime soon, so why bother wasting the money and the resources? Well, going back to prehistoric times again, the mysterious ancient giant eggs down under were laid by the Alcee demon ducks of doom. Any Alcees watching today that have heard of your demon ducks of doom? Of course, I had to include this story because how can we not talk about demon ducks of doom? So basically, they were giant chickens, 440 pounds, and they laid cantaloupe-sized eggs. And of course, it's guessed that they went extinct because people ate all those eggs, because who would not want a 2-egg omelet out of a watermelon-sized egg? I mean, that's awesome. So here's bone samples of this guy. Of course, it has a less impressive real name, Thunderbird. No, it's not a Thunderbird. It's a demon duck of doom, guys. But after doing some research, they figured out that there were these giant eggs down there. The giant eggs were apparently coming out of these demon ducks of doom. And I'm going to keep saying that because I love saying demon ducks of doom. All right. And on to our final one, bad kitties. The Germantown grounds cats to save rare birds. So there's a rare bird. They have a mating season, and for some stupid reason, these guys put their nests on the ground. And so this German city where these birds are endangered are telling people that they have to not allow their cats outside because they will possibly take out the birds while they're nesting. So all of the kitties in this German town have indeed been grounded. Sorry, kitty cats, you must stay indoors. Well, if you'd like to help support the channel, we do have a Patreon page, patreon.com/TOMM. Supports all of our different channels. You can head on over there to help support us. So thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.